Okay, right. Can you all hear me? That is the question. Okay, hello everybody. I am the BPG13, also known as Viper. Welcome to Blindrunners UK. Whilst I'll be showing off the Colin McRae Rally 1 run. So this has been done via a couple of you guys in the Blindrunners community. So for those that are new here, just to quickly explain what Blindrunners is. It's basically a server full of speedrunners, new and current, and we just run games blindly without knowing what the hell's going to happen, and see what times we can get. So, for those that don't know who I am, I'm pretty sure you do because it has the run information and everything on the screen. So I'm, like I said, the BPG13, also known as Viper or Viper Racing, whichever you prefer. This is the Novice Championship category. As you can see, the PB, or world record, which is my personal PB, is a 54:30. You may notice on screen that the game looks a bit different to how the other runners have been doing it. That's because I'm playing on a console. This is the NTSC version, and I'm using a 90k PS2 for context. So you go through 6 rallies altogether, 3 stages apiece. Hopefully the sound shouldn't be too bad. I mean, the music's gone off for whatever reason, so I do apologise. Another thing to mention is that at some point during this run, someone's going to come in and drop some food off, so you might hear the table where, or the desk where my mic is, you might hear that moving, so I do apologise for that. The other thing as well is that we are using the 90k North American PS2 with the fast disk speed. This actually helps increase the disk speed by about 10%, I say 10%, probably about twice as fast. So what you get on an emulator is about 4 to 5 seconds, whereas, or even 6 seconds in some cases, and on a console you get about 2 to 3, if not less. So there is a few things to mention. So most of it is basically just driving and rallying your backside off. We are using the Golf because it's the quickest car in the Novice Championship. And there is like a few changes. I will mention them as and when I go, but for now we might as well get into it. So, since we're ready on time, I won't have a time. I've got a timer on the side, but just to kind of show how it's going to be, you'll get to see how it is. So, since we're ready to go, I'll count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. Okay, so Colin McRae Rally 1 for the PlayStation 1. Now, for the most part, you don't actually need to change any car settings here. The reason I don't change anything here, you can change them if you'd like to, but you don't have to. None of it's required. You don't have to, change anything. So we are playing on manual gears, mainly because it's as optimized as it can get. Manual gears is usually faster in any racing game. So for the most part, you want to try and keep most of your speed going through these corners. I will just say that the game, the run itself is relatively straightforward. So this probably won't be too much different than what most of the runners have done so far. But for the most part, we do want to be using, as I hit the thing there. God, I'm driving just as bad as I did before. God damn it. Okay, allow me to try and talk a bit about this game. So it came out in 1998. Also, you can tell my driving's a bit rusty. I'm driving worse than some of the runners have done. So I do apologise. Okay, way worse. Okay, let's try not to do that. So, Colin McRae Rally 1 came out in 1998 for the PlayStation 1 and PC. It is worth noting that the PlayStation 1 version of the game and the PC version both have separate leaderboards. Now, the reason for this is simple. The main reason they're both different from one another is down to frame rate and load times. So if you remember years ago, back in the 90s, 2000s, I think it's probably even earlier than that, to be honest. So old games had region differences, and the main one that was notable for the PlayStation was, well, I say for the PlayStation, but for this game and for pretty much everything back then, was the fact that the frame rate was different depending on the region. So if you got the PAL version, or the European version as it's known, to put it a bit easier, the frame rate is locked to 25 FPS or around there, and if you play a game that can double it, then it's 50 FPS. However, if for whatever reason you play on the North American or Japanese versions, although the Japanese versions can be different at times, then what can actually happen is you'll end up having 30 FPS and 60 FPS when doubled. So, for the most part, all you got to know is that this is the North American version, it's 30 FPS. Because of this, loading times are faster, the game runs faster, and also, not only that, but because the game runs faster, it means your in-game timer is actually going to run slower. How this works, I don't know, but for some weird reason, it is able to run at a much... Because you're running at a higher frame rate, the timer is slowed down slightly. I don't know why, I don't know how, but that's a thing apparently. So there's only like one change that's notable in New Zealand. In fact, I think most of the rallies have one in particular change to them, so I'll try and explain them as we go. So New Zealand is relatively straightforward. You might notice I do like a cut here, a cut there. Nothing too much in terms of cuts. So New Zealand has, like I said, each rally has 3 stages. The first 2 are dry, so it's nothing to worry about. It's just kind of knuckle down, put your foot down, do the best you can. And the main idea of a rally game is to try and keep your speed through the corners and try not to crash, of course. And obviously, because it's a speed run, you want to go as fast as possible. So this quarry can be very tricky to get perfect. In fact, getting it perfect is pretty difficult anyway. But hear me out. So the outlines of the tracks of the game, sorry, of that part of the stage, it's like a thick gravel or something. I don't actually know what it is. I think it's some sort of like thick gravel. But basically, long story short, if you go into that thick gravel, then you'll slow down. It slows your car right down. And you think it'd be useful, but it isn't. There's no use to it whatsoever. It just slows you down and doesn't exactly help in the end, in the long run. So far so good. This particular section here is very tricky, so I am going to just dab on the brakes here. The one thing I will say is the car is quite tentative to sliding a lot. So you have to really, really just be careful with the car. Ideally, you want to aim for a sub 230 on that particular checkpoint. It's not exactly easy to get sub 230 for that checkpoint, but there is a couple of times that I tend to stick in my head where if it's below like a certain time, then that means you're doing good. So like, for example, around 252 would be good here. There we go. You'll also notice as well that I don't, like, towards the end of that stage, also wet grooves here because it is a wet stage, because of the fact that going into these stages, there is some particular checkpoints which have always had a significant amount of speed and a certain time for. So, for example, you might want to keep the car at maximum revs. You'll also notice as well I'm not letting it get to... I try not to let the car redline too much. So, the speedometer on the right hand side, this is probably like the easiest way for me to put it. So, the speedometer on the right hand side, normally... I try not to let it get to the top bar if possible, unless it can't be helped for whatever reason. So for the most part, like I said, it's just about managing the skid. The other thing is as well, is that because it's wet, expect the car to slide more. And I do mean expect it to slide more, because it is very, very difficult. Like, hands down, very, very difficult. 45 seconds there is not too bad for me. However, if I could get a 44, that would be better. But whatever, we'll go with it. I've not exactly done great this rally because I already messed up the first stage, but whatever. Can't have a perfect run. My driving's not going to be perfect here, I know that. So you'll notice that I try and change down. As soon as the car starts to slow down, I will try and change down a gear. The other thing is as well, like I said, managing the slide of the car. It's not easy. Also, be careful with that fence. You catch it too fast, what ends up happening with that is you catch the fence, the car spins out. It's easier said than done, believe me, I've done it in the past. Also, keeping it in third gear and just sliding the car through the corners. There's actually this neat little thing here, which provided doesn't screw me over. It didn't. Nice. You just literally cut through that fence, the bush, sorry. You just clip through it because it's not actually visible. The other thing I should mention as well is when you're going through that bench in particular, sorry, the bush, it can spin you out. Physics in this game can't play ball all the time. Sorry, don't play ball all the time, so just be careful. The other thing is as well is about now in the stage, you're kind of going on to dry gravel, I think this is. Even though it's raining, it's still dry, so you do need to be careful. Wet grooves on a dry track makes your car slide. So you'll probably notice how I'm sliding the car more than actually like braking. It seems to screw off some speed. Also, there is a nice little cut here that we do. It's only minor. It doesn't matter if you don't get it straight away, but if you can, that's great. So a lot of them, like I said, New Zealand is mainly just little cuts. There's not like huge cuts or anything like that to worry about. And there's a few minor ones, there's a few big ones, but it's no big deal. Also, cheating, says Mango. You are wrong, my good sir, you are wrong, haha. Also, sub 310s here is pretty good. So that's pretty good. So you want to mash through this. Also, grease. Change that to good acceleration. And that's literally the only change you're going to make. So by making that change right at the start of grease, this is important. If you make a change at the start of a rally, that change stays with you during the entire rally until you change it back. So bear that in mind, it doesn't reset. The reason I mention that is there's something that's coming up later on in the run, which is in Corsica, and it is very important. So there's a certain way of me doing this run towards the end of it. And like I said, we'll come across that when we get to it, and I'll explain why it can be different for some runners. Again, most of this comes down to your driving style. So unless you seem... Also, look at all the Skodas in the top 4, nice. So unless you can make it work, which isn't always the case, but unless you can make it work with your driving style, chances are you're really going to struggle. So I'm just going to do the run the way I normally do it, and I'll give a few pointers for those that might want to run this game again, or are new to running it, or want to run it maybe in the future. So for grease, like I said, we changed the acceleration from max acceleration to good. The reason being for this is because, yes, we want as much speed as we can get. However, by increasing it to good acceleration, we have still, obviously, some good acceleration, of course, hence the name. But not only that, that will get some better top-end speed on stages 2 and 3. So stage 2 and 3 have some very nice corners in particular. They're very good, in my eyes. I personally like them, I really enjoy the corners. But it's not bad. But yeah, grease for the most part, like I said, it's just doing it the easy way and being as fast as possible. So you can choose to stay in second gear for those 2 corners there, if you wish. You don't have to. Also, sub 2 minutes on that checkpoint is actually actually a good benchmark to set for yourself if you want to know where you are on a run. I'd recommend for beginner to set that at around 2:10. So try aiming for under 2:10 for that checkpoint in particular. So checkpoint number 6, I believe it is. Now I will say that getting a good time on PAL is actually harder than doing it on NTSC. Just because of the fact that A, the lack of frames mean the load times are slower, and B, slower in-game time, so you're going to be slower in stage time too. So just bear that in mind if you're running the PAL version. There is a Japanese version of this game which you can play on emulator. As far as we can tell, there's not much in terms of what's it called? Also, skip through all this. There's not actually much in terms of in terms of difference. So between the North American version and the Japanese version of the game, you won't find too much difference. Supposedly the game, the commentator, this is like, the co-driver. So the co-driver for this game is called Nicky Grist. Now, bear in mind, because I'm playing the English version, or if I play the game in English, that's my co-driver. If you play the Japanese version, it says that your co-driver will speak Japanese or English. But no matter which option you pick, he doesn't actually speak Japanese in the game. I think the only way he actually speaks Japanese, and it's not even him, it's in the rally school segment of the game. And in the rally school, they have Colin McRae normally running you through the basics of rally driving and how to manage to slide and whatnot. However, I think if you have the Japanese version and you play with Japanese, he turns Japanese, as in some Japanese voice actor comes in and takes over his spot. It's like, oh no, Colin. Also, this is what I meant with the speed. So you want to, bear in mind, I'm not even using my brakes here. So you can easily get through this bit, I say that, but you can get through this bit without using your brakes, just be careful. The other thing I should mention, and this is again very important, see this grey stuff on the outside of the track? This is very dangerous. The reason I say it's very dangerous, I mean in the Intermediate Championship for example, in the Intermediate Championship, your cars are obviously faster, so you'll be having like the Subaru Impreza and the Mitsubishi Lancer, that sort of thing. The other thing to mention is, like I said, this grey stuff. For some odd reason, your car tends to flip really easily, and it's even worse when you get the bonus cars and you start using those on the Expert. It becomes really difficult. Fun fact: I've actually beat the PlayStation version. I haven't tried the PC version yet, but because I can't be bothered. I've done it on the PS1, so I'm happy with that. But I've beat both the Intermediate and Expert Championships using the Golf. Now you're probably like, why is that significant? This car has around 60 horsepower less than the Subaru, the Mitsubishi, etc. So a car that's got 60 horsepower less beat cars with 60 horsepower more, if that makes sense. So, for example, when I played this not that long ago, it was actually quite interesting because we got things moving and I somehow managed to beat the Intermediate. Now, the Expert are about 5 seconds quicker, and I still managed to beat them with the Golf. And I don't mean I didn't manage to beat them by like 10 seconds or so. I managed to beat them by like 2 or 3 seconds on some rallies. Like, I even struggled in the UK and still just about managed to win. It took me this about, I think I was about 2 minutes quicker in Expert than I was in Intermediate. But again, like I said, it all depends. I wouldn't recommend it as a rookie. You really need to get used to this game to actually try something like that. That was just like a crazy idea. I think somebody actually suggested, have you ever tried beating the expert championship in the golf? And I was like, no. He was like, why didn't you try? I was like, because it's probably not possible. I tried it, and I raced my butt off, and somehow managed to do it. I was like, wow, that's pretty friggin' amazing. The one car that won't actually beat the AI, I think the Seat could probably beat them, but again, only just. Yeah, I think the Seat could probably beat the Expert AI, but I'm not sure. Yeah, not quite sure. But there's a bonus car, which is the Ford Escort Mark II. And the Escort Mark II is one of the slowest cars in the game. So much so that when you go up against Intermediate and Expert AI, it just struggles like hell. Like, it really struggles. There's no way of beating the AI on them difficulties with that car. It's just so bad. Also, according to my splits, I'm about equal with my PB at this current moment. Somehow. I lost a bit of time there, but that's fine. Okay, so. Grease done, Monte Carlo. Change to good acceleration. Leave every other setting fine. The reason why you want to do this is mainly because of the fact that you want speed more than anything else. Now you can change that the gearbox to max acceleration if you wish. However, do note something. You don't have to, but you can do. It is quicker, I'd say. I don't think it's quicker for me, personally, because I've always used good acceleration and found it to be better on the straights. Also, this run's going to make me so blind because I can't see where I'm going. But using anything other than the standard setting for the car actually makes it slower. As I see Bakerman said he used spikes. I mean, spikes are good for snow, which is what we've got. But there's more wet roads than there is snow. It's probably the reason why the wet grooves work. Also, this is why you need your speed at good acceleration. If I had the balance speed, I could get a higher top speed here. However, coming out of corners means I'm going to make it worse on the car, for whatever reason. Also, be sure to slow down early for this corner, because you're going to need it. It is a real bugbear, that corner. Getting the car to slow down. You may notice as well that I whack the car off some of the barriers sometimes. This is none more apparent than when you get to Sweden Stage 2. So, one of the runners for this game, who's actually second on the leaderboard at this current moment, called HypnoShark, found that if you do a bit of wall riding and bashing against the walls, you can actually be quicker than the AI in this stage. Sorry, in that stage. Also, there's the food I mentioned. That was food stop, by the way. So I want to try and be careful and not go off. Ideally, you want to keep it on the snow, on the tracks. Don't let the car slide too much. If you know the general rules for driving, then you'll know to slow down like miles in advance for Sweden. Sorry, for snow in general. This is actually a rule that's it's true in real life. So if you ever do, for those that live in the UK, you basically get told that if it's on a dry day, you've got, I can't remember what it is, you have your normal braking distances in dry. In the wet it's doubled, and then it's times 10 I believe in snow and ice. This is kind of the same thing here. Bear in mind you've got wet grooves on here, not spikes. The car is going to slide. You need to be prepared for this slide. If you're not prepared, you'll go miles off course. So just be prepared. Nice. First stage done. Now bear in mind, in terms of setup, I'm not changing a thing. So this is stage 2. This was the one I just mentioned. So stage 2, most of it is wall grinding and wall bashing. You're probably like, how? Now, not this corner in particular. A lot of the corners here are all barricaded. And they've all got barriers on them. So, ideally, you want to hit them with some speed. So, for example, here, change down a gear, whack the end of the car. Car keeps some of its speed at least. To see the snowbanks, do not hit those. Whatever you do, do not try and hit those. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to not hit them too fast. So I am going to use my brakes here, but at the same time I am going to hit the wall. So again, this was actually one of the biggest tricks for this stage in particular. We didn't realise how much time it saved. It was only through Hypno Shark that we found out, that he actually found out you could go much faster by simply hitting the walls. It's weird how it lets you keep your speed. Obviously I still have to brake for some corners, it's not like I can't not brake for every corner. But you can like hit some of the corners and just keep the slide going, maintain the slide. Do not do it for this hairpin or the hairpin after, you will struggle. Also, keep inputs as little as possible. So I actually don't like hold the left and the right buttons constantly, so I'm kind of just tapping them to get the car to turn slightly. Yes, it is one of those games where it's like that. Be careful of that snowbank I've just gone past, by the way. You hit that hard enough and you go up it, your car's flipping over. So don't hit it with any speed. If you can, just put the brake. If you're not ballsy enough to go and try it flat out and change down gears and master this slide like I did, then by all means put your brakes on. It will help, obviously. There is this corner. I've tried taking it flat out. Also, cheeky little cut coming up here. Stay around the middle of that as you can. Change down a gear if needs be. Just be careful as well. There's one thing you should know. Invisible collision detection barriers on this game. They love to do it. Just be aware, you might have some trouble on this stage. There we go. Also, still not repairing the car. Notice how I'm not repairing the car. Mainly because it saves time. Like I said, Mango, best bits to the quickest way to beat this game is by using manual. If you use auto gears, then you will lose time because you won't get the gear change you require, unfortunately. Oh god, that was not what I wanted to do. The car decided to spin me around then. Nice physics. Doesn't really happen that often. Does it actually drive worse if you don't repair it? Yeah, it does. So, in the novice, you shouldn't batter the car too badly. Even as a bad driver, you shouldn't batter the car too much. But if you do it bad enough, you can affect its driving. Where it's most notable and where it's actually the worst. So on the intermediate and expert categories, you ideally want to repair the car during those, because if you don't repair the car loses a lot of performance, and in some really bad cases, as I've experienced, the damage model is much harsher, meaning you smash the car hard enough you'll lose engine power, you'll lose your power steering, you'll break the axles on the car, meaning the steering will be damaged and you'll be turning and it'll just keep turning rather than line up again. So damage can have a really bad effect on your car. Flipping the car over on novice isn't too much of a big deal, but it can be a problem if you do it too much. Obviously, even though my car's probably battered at this point, it is wrecked. I'm not bothered, I'm going to still keep on going. This doesn't actually bother me either. They're doing a 360 spin and all that. Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. So I am going to lose time to my splits here, but this is fine. This should still be a 55, I think, so we're all good. So ideally, I want to be finishing here at around 28 minutes, and it's just coming up to 28 on my timer. But that's not bad. Could be worse. Also, that was a gold. Also, spam 3 times and you get to Australia. For Australia, just don't bother changing anything. This is the best thing about Australia. You don't have to change anything. You can just keep the car exactly the same the whole way through. No repair it, don't change car setup. Easy. Australia is actually my favourite because it's very fast, but also the stages are very tricky. So for the most part, it looks quite easy, but you always have a fast route that you can do. There's actually two major cuts which are in Australia, both of which are very tricky to perform, and I'm hoping I get them first try. If I don't, it's no biggie, but I'll go for both of them. One of them is really easy actually, the other one not so much. Like I said, for the most part, keeping your speed up, as I said before, is the main key of the game, so obviously me just turning slightly will make the car go a bit quicker. You also have to, like I said, learning the courses is definitely a big one, because obviously if you don't, then you're not going to get any good time. So practice, practice, practice. Luckily for me, I've had about 20 years of practice, so I wish I was joking when I said that, but no. I think I've been playing this since it came out, pretty much. On my old fat PlayStation. But obviously I wasn't playing it like this fast and everything. Not when I not when I originally played it anyway. Vintage speedrunner here. I never did speedrunner this until like a couple of years ago. Funnily enough, I spotted that there wasn't a leaderboard for this like 5 years ago. Wait, no one's done a run of this game, why not? So I set up the leaderboard, I did my first run, it was like a 58.49. Fun fact, most people, I think like, if you go below 3rd maybe on the leaderboard, it's still like worse than a PB. Also, here comes the first big one. So this one's quite tricky. Not easy to get, but if you're brave enough and you can hold the speed through there, then that's pretty damn good. Ideally, you want to try and keep the speed through there. Also, the physics can really throw you off, so you have to be careful. Practice that cut, that's a big one. Saves around 2 seconds or so, 2 or 3 seconds. So, it has been a while since I've taught anybody how to do most of these cuts, but for the most part, stage 2 has one of my fun set of lines in the game. See, like, what do you mean fun? So there's one set of lines that's coming up in the in the co-driver, I'll see if you can spot it. We're going to be there in like half a minute, so about 30 seconds or so. Also, you can go through that water or you can drive to the right hand side of it. Doesn't take you as much. Alright, so these jumps here, they're blind. You don't know where you're going. You learn where the track goes. This is where it gets tricky to try and explain where to go. So keeping your speed through here is pretty difficult, and knowing where the track bears off to. So you go over this jump here, and then the track goes over the hill and curves to the right. Now ideally you want to try and keep your speed as high as possible. It is quite difficult to keep like 100 miles an hour through there. Here we go. Speaking of which. So it's actually them bits there. It goes over jump, gate. Also, here's one of the big cuts. There's two in this stage, so bear with me. So here's the first one. So that actually saves around 2 seconds on the stage by simply going through there. You literally just go straight on and cut that entire corner out. For this one, you want to make sure that you keep as close to the left hand side as you can. Try not to go too far into the dip, because otherwise it will throw your car off. There's another cut coming up here and it is quite tricky to get right, so bear with me. I'll try and explain it if I can. So there's this cut here, which you can do. Put your brakes on slightly, send the car through, there you go. Easy. However, if you're not confident in doing that, simply slow down and go through it slower. The idea is knowing where to come out of the trees. Believe me, it's took me a long time to learn that cut. It even throws me off now. So it is very difficult to do. I made that look easy, but believe me, the amount of takes it took for me to get a good line through there. With novice, you can actually make it through there. If you were doing intermediate or expert, good luck getting through that at 100 miles an hour. Because you don't want to leave, obviously, no surprise here, you don't want to leave any time on the table in intermediate and expert, because intermediate, they do give you a bit of leeway, but it's not too much. And expert, they're right on your tail. You have to be pretty good at the game to win expert. Even if you're driving the fastest car, the AI can still pack quite a punch. Also, that corner always seems to annoy me because I can never get it right all the time. So we have like, and that one too. So we have a train line set coming up, which we're going to run alongside. Now bear in mind, this stage is around 2 minutes 10, I believe. 2 minute 10, 2 minute 12, something like that. And it's not too bad of a stage, although there is like a tip I can give at the end of this stage, which is when you do the end of this stage, you'll go over some jumps, which is obviously exactly what you want. And when you go over the, I think, is it this one that runs alongside the train? No, it isn't, it's Bluff Knoll, my bad. It's a different one that runs alongside the train. Okay, so you want to try and keep your speed through here, don't go too wide there. Okay, here we go. So here's the first like little thing I can give you. So there's a water splash coming up about now. You want to aim for the left hand side of these trees here, the bushes, and come right back on, like that. The reason why you want to do that is so you can keep your speed going past it. The water thing slows you down. Also, aim for the right here, curve, turn in, curve straight for the finish. That was actually a pretty good time. What do they get? Nice. Also, that is Australia done. Next on Sweden. And you actually want to leave all of the settings for this. This is important now. So for Sweden, sorry, I'm eating. So for Sweden, you want to have it as max acceleration for this first stage. So basically, leave the car settings as they are. You don't want to change them. Don't do anything. Just keep them the same the whole way through. Also, this is the longest stage in the entire run. I was going to say game, but it isn't, it's run. So, Sweden is very difficult to get to do fast because you really need to focus here. Also, again, mastering the slide. Make sure you do it. It's not easy, but mastering the slide works. It does help. So, when I said before about this is the longest stage in the game, I wasn't kidding. This is the longest stage in... Not the longest stage in the game, the longest stage in the run. It's longer by about 20 seconds or so than New Zealand 3. So you've got... what is it? New Zealand 3 is about... Oh, I don't know. I'm trying to think. What is it? New Zealand 3 is around 3 minute 10, 3 minute 15 altogether. This is about 3 minute 30. Honestly, this stage feels like it goes on forever. And getting it right is very difficult. Like, there's no way you can get it right first try. It is impossible. Learning this stage is crucial. In fact, I'd go on to say that Sweden, as a whole, is a very difficult rally. To get a good run means good practice of these stages. You don't practice these stages, you're going to lose a lot of time. So, obviously, like I said before, just practice. That's pretty much the simplest thing. That's the easiest bit of advice I can give for this game. There's not a lot more to say other than just practice, 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 practice. That's it. Also, you probably wouldn't believe me if I told you, but my splits are saying like golds currently. Like, I actually saved time in Australia, so this could be a PB. I mean, it's looking very likely about now. Funnily enough, this is like my first full run since I set my PB, I think. So, yeah, I could possibly beat my record here, that would be nice. By complete accident. I tended just to slow down and like lose to my PB by like 2 seconds. It is quite, like I said, it is a very daunting stage. It's very boring, very daunting. This first stage is the worst. Stages 2 and 3 aren't too bad. However, as I mentioned before, stages 2 and 3 require a lot more concentration. Now, here comes the first big thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to go up, change to good acceleration. Now, this is where you guys can be different if you wish. If you're not confident with the speed of and handling the car at high speed, keep it as max acceleration. Only go with good acceleration if you're feeling confident enough with the speed of the car. And you can handle it at high speed. If you can't, like I said, just leave it at max acceleration. Also, good God, this is bright. My God. So, I'll explain why I use good acceleration. So, on parts of this stage, there is actually some nice straights. However, my main concern is in stage 3. So, in stage 3 of this, there's a nice big open section, and it isn't easy to get right, but you get it right with a fast car, and there you go. Also, there's also this nice straight. You go over here, you go onto the ice, slow down because ice is obviously slippy. So I'm actually just playing this one safe. Just for the sake of it, I am going to play this run safe. You can still slide the car on here, it's actually just as easy. If you're sliding and you catch one of these snowbanks on the left or right hand side, your car will spin. You don't want that, believe me. You actually don't want that to happen. Oh God. Yeah, you really don't want that to happen, trust me. Mango's like, safe? What is this? Thomas had never seen such bullshit before. Also, this corner comes up pretty quickly, so slow down a bit earlier. You'll make it just fine. The number of times that I've seen people and myself gone off the road at that particular corner is pretty easily said than done. It's an easy corner to go off at, and if you're not prepared for what's to come, then obviously you're best off just taking it easy and braking earlier. Honestly, Bacon Man, I'd like to see a few more people run this. I mean, feel free to give it a try, man. I mean, and Mango, if you're up for the challenge, yeah. It's always good to do it. Yeah, intermediate's a bit harsher because if you, especially towards the latter, so there's 2 rallies that you can only do in intermediate. You can't do them in novice, and the two rallies that you get are Indonesia and the UK. Indonesia's quite easy to lose at. I remember the number of times that like Hypno Shark and Joseph and a couple other runners have actually fell at that hurdle, so be careful. The other thing is as well is that it's recommended for the intermediate that you save your progress as you go. This is important. If you don't save it, you go right back to the start of the game, so be warned.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 3 left, 2 right.
I personally don't save, but that's just me.
2 left.
Also, stage 3, Sweden. I can't lie. This is probably my kryptonite. I can't always get this right. It is very difficult to do.
3 right into.
Especially like, there's one particular corner, I can't remember where it is. One particular corner which is a right pane, I think it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. So it curves in pretty tight at that corner. Actually, here's its friend. They might as well be hairpins, to be honest. I don't see why they're not. Would definitely work better. Okay, so I think this is, yeah. So this is the straight bit I was telling you about. Now those with guts and really want to get some speed, put your foot down and prepare to like go going over jumps, because these are blind jumps. You can't see what's coming. You have to kind of guess which way the snowbanks are going to be. So this is me not even using the brakes. I don't have to use the brakes here. Just put my foot down the whole way. As soon as you get up here though, use them. Gee whiz. And getting the slide here is so hard. If you get it as perfect as that, then you've mastered this, like the main part of the stage. Like holy cow. That was pretty much perfect. It actually was as well, that's pretty nice. I might have gained some time here, that'd be nice. It's actually quite easy to lose time on this stage though, because like I said before, the snowbanks they'll often do your head in. And as you can see, no doubt, it's extremely bright, Sweden. I'm playing this on a monitor. This corner as well, again, be very careful, you can go off. As I've just done. This corner is also pretty bad. There's a few bad corners, but again, would highly recommend taking it easy. Unless you want to go for some really good times, then by all means you can do. Also, that's not good. Yeah, I've lost quite a bit of time in Sweden, but whatever. This is fine. And then that is Sweden. Okay, last but not least, Corsica. Right, you keep the acceleration. Remember how I said before about the acceleration for Sweden? Corsica has something similar. Again, you don't have to change anything. You can keep the car exactly as it is the whole way through Corsica. You don't have to change anything, nothing. I'd highly recommend it unless you know you can handle the car at high speed. You're about to see why. Corsica is the worst rally on the calendar. It might be tarmac, but don't let it fool you. There's cliffs, there's a lot of invisible collision detection as well. Most crucially on this one, you don't really want to use your brakes too often. And a manual gearbox damn well sure comes in handy. It's so easy to hit an invisible barrier, as in invisible hit detection box, and flip the car over. This stage in particular used to give me nightmares. So I can get like quite a bit of speed through here. But obviously the worst thing is going towards stage 1 and 2. It is very difficult. You need to, like, you'll see me not hitting the walls too much, but that's because I always see them as a death trap. Hitting these walls at any moment can mean disaster. I should probably point something out. So along these walls is collision detection. If you hit them if you hit them fast and at a pretty bad angle, which is easier to do because the collision detection could be all over the place in this game, you can actually flip the car over, like literally like there's no tomorrow. And when you flip the car over in Corsica, believe me, it's horrible. This corner as well is also horrendous. Personally, it's my least favourite corner in Corsica. Although my least favourite stage is actually the last one. Nice. Now, for the sake of things, I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to repair, and I'm going to change it to good acceleration. Why I'm going to change it to good acceleration is simple. Because there's a nice big straight in here. Keeping the speed on here, you'll see why. This stage is very fast. And you'll need the speed. You'll also want to keep eye on your car too. If it gets to maximum speed and you hit one of these invisible collision detections, you're out of here. The car's flipped over, the car's wrecked for that matter. It's insane. So there's a particular point I'll let you know when it comes up. But for the most part, there we go. Right, so this is where it's going to start kicking in. So for the most part, this is where the speed kicks in. Now, you can, if you're brave enough, I'm not brave enough to do it, but if you're brave enough, you can actually wall ride the cliff. Wouldn't recommend it though, because it's easy to flip over. Also, leave this braking as late as you dare. And also, this corner is blind. There's also a really bad part of this stage now. Here we go. Right. So getting onto this part of the stage. Very hard, very horrible. Right. Don't get too close to that bridge. You'll flip over. Again, invisible collision detection. Bear in mind, I'm not touching the brakes here. Any speed that the car's losing is just because of me turning. So, you can let off the accelerator here if you want, or you can keep the speed going around the corner. It's completely up to you. I'm also going to change it down to third here because that provides a lot of engine braking, allows me to slow the car right down. And there we go. That's the stage done. And then finally, last but not least, we have stage 3. So stage 3 is actually one of the hardest stages in the entire game. And in this entire run. Also, time's obviously going to be when I cross the line. Hopefully I don't mess it up. Here we go. Okay, so this stage is probably one of the worst. Would highly recommend using max acceleration with this stage rather than good acceleration. Like I said, for me, once I have good acceleration, I keep it. I don't bother changing it back. I can waste a good few seconds changing the acceleration back to max acceleration, but again, it's not worth it in my eyes. You can do, if you guys are just simply wanting to improve your PB, you might find it faster to change. But once you, the less, put it this way, the less changes you do in the menus, as in the less repairing, etc., the better it's going to be. Also, you can wall ride that. Be careful of this corner because it's easy to go off the side of the road. And for the most part, the rest of the stage is just, I would say, just watch and learn, really. It's just all about keeping your speed going. There's no major cuts or anything like that. It's just literally keeping your speed, seeing how fast you can get. It's kind of about it. And making, like I said, learning the courses is the main one. That corner's quite bad as well because it's blind, so you have to be careful. Also, this particular set of corners can be quite tricky. Very, very difficult to do. Easy to mess things up if you get it wrong. Ideally, you want to hit this before 2 minutes. Or at least I always try to, which is good, because that means this should be a good stage time. I do use the tap of the brakes here, a tap of the brakes there. Be careful of that rock, it'll flip you over if you get it wrong. Obviously, braking into these corners, this can actually make you slide quite a bit, I might add. This particular set of corners isn't fun at all, it's not very nice. Not bad, but could be worse. So, just take it easy through there, like that. And then up to the finish line and time. And that is it. 6:42 in-game time for Corsica. 60 points. My 5th best total because I've played it that many bloody times. There you go. I should point out that the time altogether for that stage, not time altogether, the time for that run was a 54.35, so that was 5 seconds slower than my PB. And that is Colin McRae Rally 1. I'm surprised they even got that good of a run. Like, New Zealand could have actually been so much better. I messed New Zealand stage 1 up, so that could maybe have been a PB if I kept the good pace going, so you never know. So there's that. Sub 54 when? It's not actually possible, TDP. You can't do sub 54 on a console. Like, not even joking. The only way you can do sub 54 for this game, for novice I mean, is by playing the PC version. Right now the record on PC is a 52.04. Like, not even joking, 52.04 on PC, that's the best time. That's how much faster it is on PC. And just for clarification, this was the PS1 version of the game being run on a North American PlayStation 2, which is the fastest version, with fast disk speed on, of course, to increase load times. And also, as a quick bonus tip for those that might want to run this game again, or for the first time, if you start the first stage in New Zealand, if you start the first stage in New Zealand, and then come out of the game, so you go into, say, start a championship, go past the welcome to new game welcome to New Zealand. Go into the first stage, let it load in, quit out, and then go back into the game again. When you load back into that same bit, loading times are actually increased. Sorry, decreased. So you'll load into stages faster if you do that. So there's a quick tip for you. Been waiting for my pizza. Yeah, pre-run setup. It is allowed. It's not. There's no rule against it, but you can do that if you want to get your load times down a tad, which will save you a few seconds over the run. Then you can do. Also, loading times aren't always the same. It always depends on obviously the disk speed and if it's consistent enough. So there's that. How much faster is PAL PS2 on fast than NTSC? It's not faster. Even with fastest speed on PS2, it isn't faster. You can run this game on PAL. You can run this game on PAL, so you can run it on emulator, you can run it on PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. But the quickest version of the game to play is the North American version. So, if you have a European PS2, which I'm pretty sure most people do, unless you're from North America, then you might have a North American PS2, and you get the European version of the game, and you have fastest speed turned on, it will be quicker than what's on an emulator. But again, it all comes down to the driving, and it all comes down to the driving mainly, more or less. It's even though it's measured in RTA, but in-game time is also another thing as well. Mod chipping of PS2. What, as in making it region free? I don't see why there'd be a problem with that. There might not be any difference. We've not used the mod chip PS2. As far as most of the runners who've done it on console, actually no, every runner that's done it on a console has done it on just the standard console. No one's used mod chipping. Won't recommend it, but the one thing I will say is that if we find that the mod chipped PS2 loads into the game faster, this is the one thing I will say, and this will potentially be a thing if you do decide to submit it. But if we find that by using a mod chipped PS2 that your load times are faster, then we will declare the run as illegal. So if it's around the same or slower, then it's fine. But if we find it's faster, then it will be declined. As for the Japanese version, we can't really say. The Japanese version, as far as I'm concerned, can run around the same. It runs at the same frame rate as North America, so pretty sure there's no difference there. But again, we'd have to check 100%. There's no rule against using fastest speed or anything like that. So it's one of them things. You can do a run if you want, TDB. You don't have to not do one. I'm just saying if we found that it was illegal. If we found that the load times were faster by like half a second or something, then yeah, we would have to declare that illegal and also put it in the rules. But no one's done one with a mod chipped PS2, so there's that. That's the only reason I'm saying it. But yeah, now that you guys have seen a run, also, you may notice, hang on a minute, why is your menu gold, or like an orange colour? So, there's a reason for this. If you win the intermediate, then you get a gold background. So that's how you get it. Also, we get to use some of the faster cars, so Subaru, Mitsubishi, Ford, the Toyota. You don't actually get... There's something. The Renault Megane is not in the North American version. It's only in the European version of the game. So there's something that the European version has. Also, I know you guys probably want to see the bonus cars, so expert. You only unlock expert, by the way, if you beat the intermediate, so bear that in mind. Also, here's your bonus cars. So you get the Ford Escort Mark II. This is the slowest car in the game, by the way, I might add. The Ford RS200, the Lancia Delta Integrale, and my personal favourite and the fastest car in this game, the Audi Quattro. I mean, that thing is seriously quick. I won't show it off, but that is one of the fastest cars, and that is the fastest car in the game. Also, 4-wheel drive, shortest wheelbase, this thing goes like stink. It really goes quick. The RS200 is pretty quick as well, however, that actually, that slides more. So, because it's got a short wheelbase, it means you can get around corners better, it grips the road better, it doesn't slide as much. The RS200 tends to slide more, and has around the same amount of power. As you can see, it's 560 to the RS200 and 560 to the Audi Quattro. But, depending on tracks and all that sort of stuff, obviously depends on how much speed you can get out of the car. But that's kind of about it. That, I think, just about wraps things up. I'm actually going to cut the stream off here. Again, thank you to everyone who's tuned in to watch this run. I know it was a short run, it was less than an hour. But thank you very much for those that have tuned in on the Blindrunners channel. Looking forward to seeing some more people run this game, whether it be novice or intermediate, or even expert. But yeah, looking forward to seeing that, and yeah, see you guys for the next Blindrunners race, I guess. See you later.